little thing. So I'm Andrew, thanks for joining me today. I did say in my last video, which was a flower doily, flower coaster, that I would show you how to make an easier one that didn't have all the prongs to do. So for this one then, you're going to need some embroidery scissors. Look at me being well prepared. You're going to need some embroidery scissors, a 4mm crochet hook if you want to make it this size. If you want it to be any bigger, then you'll need a bigger hook, but this works well with this 100% cotton yarn. And then I'm going to use white for the centre, and for this one I use Drops U recycled cotton in this pink shade, but I'm going to do the next one in this, with this yellow edge. Okay, so oops. Right, now as before, when I use this these two together, this one's a DK. You can see it's a bit thicker, and this one's much thinner. This is more like a 2-ply than a 4-ply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off some of this, and I'm going to have 2 strands for the end, which is what I've done here. Now if you wanted, you could do your circle pink, then have white, then have your edge pink. You could put a row of pink in at some point. You could have 3 or 4 different colours, it's up to you. So I'm going to show you with the yellow how to sort of change your colours a bit, and how to add some sort of variety to that pattern. It won't change the pattern at all it'll do is just change where you're changing your colours. Okay, and I'm also going to show in this one, you can use a stitch marker, but I'm going to show you how to do it without a stitch marker. How to keep track without a stitch marker. Okay, so just bear with me a minute while I just unravel some of this. Oh, what you want to just bear in mind with this pattern is it's just a straightforward, typical circle that grows. Okay, so we start off with 6 single crochets into the ring, then we put 2 to increase, we put 2 single crochets into each of those 6. Then the next round we have a single crochet in one stitch, 2 single crochets in the next, a single crochet, 2, and then we expand to 18 stitches, and then we have a single crochet, 2, single crochet, 2 pattern, and we expand to 24 stitches, and then we have single crochet, 2, single crochet, 2, and we have that pattern that repeats 6 times, and we expand to 30 stitches, and then we have a single crochet, 2, so that's 4 singles, a double, 4 singles and then 2, 4 singles and then 2, and repeat that 6 times until we have 36 stitches, and that's what we're going to do here and now. Okay, so it's nothing difficult at all, nothing complex about the pattern at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the magic ring, and as I said already, if you're not sure about how to do a magic ring, then go and check out my Absolute Beginner series and find out how to do it before you carry on. So the yarn is over my fingers, and then I'm going to cross it over, put my hook under the first strand, pull on the back strand, and then hook up some more from the back strand and pull it through the loop on my hook, and there I have my magic circle, magic ring, whatever you want to call it. Some people lock that off with a chain 1, and some people don't bother. I've just locked it off with a chain 1 just to show you, but I wouldn't normally bother. Then we've got 6 single crochets into the ring. Now trust me, this is the hardest part of this whole pattern. this is the bit that's the trickiest. I've just pulled that in as a bit of background because the yellow wasn't showing up very well against the wood. So the hardest part of the pattern then, because it's just tricky getting started because you're fumbling around with lots of strings, and especially doing a double like this. So take your hook, put it into the ring, grab some yarn, pull it through. So you've got 2 loops on your hook, grab some yarn and pull it through both. She says how difficult it is. If you do that, just push your hook back into the stitch. So you put your hook into the ring, grab some yarn, pull it through, yarn over and pull it through the 2 loops on your hook and pull it all down nice and tight. That's 1 stitch. Hook in, pull some yarn through, yarn over, pull through the 2 on your hook. So that's 2, hook in, pull through some yarn, you've got 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull in, pull through the 2 loops on your hook. It's got a little bit snagged there. Don't worry if it gets snagged. So that's 3 stitches, hook in, pull through for 4, pull through for 5 and pull through for 6. Now you can see there I did a few different sort of techniques just to sort of show you that however you want to hold your yarn and to get started, that's fine. And pull through on your tail to get that pulled together really nicely. And if you really can't do a magic ring, you can chain 6 and join with a slip stitch. Now we've got stitches 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we want to put our hook into this stitch, and when we put it in a stitch we put it under those 2 parts of the stitch, okay? And then pull through some yarn, got 2 on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And then what we do is we just sew 2 single crochets into every stitch. So that's 2 into the next stitch, if you want to use a stitch marker you can. We're not doing rounds, we're going continuously round, but you really don't need to use a stitch marker unless you're going to get confused with your counting. So unless you're going to be interrupted a lot or stop or whatever, you don't really need to do that because you can always keep track in your mind. It's very easy to do. With your first one it's just 2 in every stitch, that's 12 stitches. With the next one it's 1 single crochet, 2 into the next, 1 single crochet, 2 into the next, and you just repeat that 6 times, so you've got 18 stitches in total. So as long as you know that you're counting around, so what I do is always count back when you finish a round. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's our 12th stitch there, okay? So that's where we need to be stitching into. So put your hook in, pull your yarn through and do your first crochet there. That's 1. And now you do 2 in the next. That's 1, 2, 3. Now because it's a repeat pattern with 3 stitches, you know that every multiple of 3 should be the second of your 2 together. So for instance 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 should all be the second of your 2 together, okay, of your two single crochets in the same stitch. So that's 3. So we've got 1 on its own, 4, 2 together, 5 and 6, okay. Now I just have to be very careful with terminology because crochet 2 together to advanced crochet means something completely different. So that's why we put our 2 in the same stitch, just for clarification. So the next one on its own is 7, and then when we put 2 into this next stitch, 8 and 9. 9 is a multiple of 3, so we know it's in the right 3 place. 3 is a multiple of 9, so we know it's the right place. 1 into the next one, 10. 17 and 18 together, because we know 3 fits into 18 6 times. Okay, so then we do that again now, but this time we do it with 4 stitches. We just want to check that we've got 18. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18. So we put 1 in there, 2 into the next stitch, and then we put 2 into the next stitch. That's 3 and 4. And now we know we're working in multiples, working 6 times 4 this time, so we're going for 24 stitches. So we know we don't have to put a stitch marker in, we can count up to 24. So we've got 4. So every time we hit a number that multiplies by 4, we know that's where we should have our 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So that's 4, so we put 1 in the next, that's 5. 1 in the next, that's 6. And then 2 in the next, 7 and 8. So we know we're on track. Next, and then 23 and 24 into the next. Okay, so that's the end of that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to swap for the white yarn. Now to swap for the white yarn, I'm going to just slip stitch into this stitch, and I'm going to let that tie off. I did mean to switch a little bit earlier actually, but I forgot. I got carried away. So now we've got 24 stitches and we're going to go up to 36 stitches, so we've got 2 more rows, because our next row will be 6 5s and our row after that will be 6 6s. So to get our yarn on, we can just come into that same place that we've stitched, because that's going to be our first stitch. So the same place where we slip stitch to end that round, and I'm just going to tie it on. You can join it however you want. I'll show you different ways of joining things, but I'm just going to tie it on. And what I do is I just tie it to the straggler from the last round as well, and that just gives it a bit of extra security. And you can sew it in if you want, or you can leave it, you can either work it in as you go around, or you can just sew it in later. So pull strand through to the front. What I do is I chain 1. Now I'll put a single crochet in there, so that's 1, and then a single crochet in the next one, that's 2, and a single crochet in the next, which is 3. And now we want 2 single crochets, so 1 and 2 in the same stitch. So that gives us 5 stitches in total. Okay, 6 goes on its own into the next one, 7 goes on its own into the next one, 8 goes on its own into the next one, and the next one you put 2 in, because that's 9 and 10. So where we've got 10, 15, 20, 25 and 30, that's where you want your 2 stitches together, because we're doing a repeat of 5. Okay, so that's 10. Next one, 11. and 30, because that's our last stitch. Okay, and then we'll just move straight over. Well, this one is easy to see where our stitch was because we changed the colour. So let me just wind down a bit more yarn. Okay, there's lots of stragglers here. Right, so we move straight over to that first stitch, and we want 36 this time, so the pattern is 6 stitches repeating, 4 single crochets into 1 stitch and then 2 into the last. So 1, next stitch 2, next stitch 3, next stitch 4, and then 2 into the next, 5 and 6. Next stitch 1, which is stitch 7, stitch 8 in the next, stitch 9 in the next, stitch 10 in the next, and stitch 11 and 12 in the next, because we're doing multiples of 6 now, groups of 6. So that's 12. So in the next 13, in the next, I'm just going to undo that a little bit because it looks a little bit, it's got a bit fuzzy. It's alright. 13, 14 in the next, 15 in the next, 16 in the next, 17 in the next, and 18 in the same. And then 35 and 36 in the same stitch, because that's your last one. Okay, and then you're just going to go into the next stitch, grab some yarn and put it through and finish off that round. Okay, now it's up to you what colour you do. I mean, these should all be sewn in, but I'm just going to snip them off because they're just getting in the way while I'm doing this tutorial. But don't do this yourself, make sure that you sew them in. Right, sometimes you get like a bit of a hexagonal shape going on when you're increasing a circle, and there is a way to stop that, which I will show you at some point, but because we're sort of just beginners and stuff here, I don't want to confuse you too much with too much information, so we'll just leave it at that, okay? So now we're going to go back to the yellow, or you can go to a pink or a green or whatever you want to do. But I'm going to go back to the yellow, and I'm going to do the petals. Now the petals are very straightforward. Right, and then to do the petals, I'm back to my 2 strands. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just join anywhere that I choose to join. I may as well just go into here. So I'm just going to bring it through and tie on. And then, like usual, I'm going to tie it to my white. Skip stitches, so this is going to act like a slip stitch. Then you've got this stitch where you've sewn on here. Then you want to skip this next stitch, and then into this one you want to put 5 double crochets, which is treble in UK terms. So yarn over once, put your hook in, pull your yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. and now do another one in exactly the same space, same stitch. Through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then for a third one, yarn over, pull through 2, and then pull through 2, and a fourth, and a fifth. And this is going to create that petal shape. And then what you want to do, and then what you want to do is miss a stitch, slip stitch into the next stitch. That's just put your hook in, pull some yarn through and pull it through. No yarning over or anything. Miss a stitch and then do 5 double crochets again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip a stitch, do a slip stitch, skip a stitch, and 5 doubles into the next stitch. And that's the pattern you want to be following around. So we'll just do one more together, yeah? And then I'll leave you to go around. So miss a stitch and then 5 doubles into the next. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Miss a stitch, that's the stitch you want to miss, slip stitch into here, miss a stitch and 5. Miss a stitch, slip stitch, and miss a stitch and 5. And let me just explain the anatomy of this to you. Even though you're putting 5 stitches of the same height into the stitch, so 5 identical stitches, you're getting this pattern because you're pulling the edges down with that slip stitch, and these 2 edge ones are stretching over the gap that you're leaving because you're missing that stitch, and then they're pulling the sides down, so that's giving it this rounded shape. Okay, so don't think how come I'm doing 5 stitches the same and I'm making it, you know, the shape's totally different. That's why. So you're missing that stitch and then you're stretching this one over to that stitch for the slip stitch, and because the slip stitch has no height, it's essentially the same height as the row before, it's pulling that stitch more or less horizontal. Okay, and then you're missing one and then you're putting another one in here, and so your first one is again being pulled kind of horizontal. Okay, two, 3, 4, 5. And then what we're going to do is this stitch will be our miss stitch, and then this is the slip stitch that we started on. So you just pop your hook into anywhere you can get it in there, pull some yarn through and make your slip stitch. Pull some yarn through and cut off to finish off. Pull your yarn through, and there you have it. And that's another version of this coaster. Okay, let me just zoom out a little bit. Whoops, I'll zoom out. So yeah, so that's a version of this coaster. Now if you'd have just carried on with the white, it would have looked like this with the yellow edge, but I think they're really pretty, and I think, you know, on an outside dining table or even an inside dining table, they're going to look really cute, and they're going to protect your furniture. And you know, this outdoor furniture nowadays is as expensive as the indoor furniture. I hope you enjoyed that. The pattern I will put on my blog, which is the blog on my website. Remember, I have two blogs. One's just for papercraft and the other one's for everything else. So this will be on the one on my website, which is craftylittlethingsuk.com/blog, and you'll find the pattern for that. Okay, and like I said, just change your colours as and when you see fit. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.